He urged viewers to come together and stand against the lies that sought to divide them. As he shared his truth, he felt a weight lift off his shoulders, and for the first time in weeks, he felt a flicker of hope. But just as the video began to gain traction, the intruder responded with even more ferocity. They unleashed a coordinated attack, rallying support from their network of powerful allies to spread false narratives about the dealership. The stakes had escalated dramatically, and Marcus knew they were now in a full-blown battle. In the following weeks, Marcus and Jenna found themselves racing against time, working tirelessly to combat the negativity that threatened to drown them. They poured their energy into engaging with the community, organizing events, and building relationships that would counter the damage inflicted by the intruder. But no matter how hard they tried, the feeling of being hunted lingered. The intruder's influence felt pervasive, like a shadow following them wherever they went. They were determined to uncover the truth behind the intruder's motives and expose their tactics, but with each lead they followed, the situation became more convoluted. One evening, while reviewing the online comments and messages, Marcus stumbled across a familiar name, a former employee who had left the dealership under mysterious circumstances. He couldn't help but wonder if there was a connection. "Jenna, look at this," he called, excitement tinged with unease. As they researched the former employee, they discovered a trail of bitterness and resentment. It became clear that this individual had a vendetta against Marcus and the dealership. It was a chilling realization, and Marcus felt a mix of anger and betrayal as he pieced together the puzzle. "We need to confront them. If they're involved in this, we have to know why," Marcus said, determination coursing through him. Jenna nodded, understanding the gravity of the situation. "But we have to be careful. They might be more dangerous than we realize," she cautioned. Despite the risk, they decided to reach out. They arranged to meet the former employee in a public place, hoping to get answers while remaining cautious. As they sat across from each other, tension filled the air. The former employee's eyes held a glint of something Marcus couldn't quite decipher. Was it regret, resentment, or something darker? "What do you want, Marcus?" the former employee asked, voice dripping with disdain. "I want to know why you're doing this. Why are you trying to destroy everything we've built?" Marcus replied, his voice steady but laced with emotion. A twisted smile crept across the former employee's face. "You think you can just walk away from this? You think you can run a dealership without facing the consequences of your actions? I'm just here to make sure you pay for what you did." Marcus felt a knot of anger twist in his stomach. "I didn't do anything to you. If anything, I tried to support you. Why would you turn against us?" he challenged, desperate for clarity. The former employee leaned back, a smug expression settling on their face. "You wouldn't understand. You're too caught up in your perfect little world. But trust me, the truth is coming, and you won't be able to hide from it." As the meeting concluded, Marcus and Jenna left feeling more unsettled than ever. The encounter had revealed not just the bitterness of a single individual, but a deep-seated animosity that threatened to unravel everything. The intruder was not just an anonymous enemy. They were a reflection of the struggles and challenges Marcus had faced within his own organization. In the days that followed, Marcus found himself haunted by the encounter. He began to question every decision he had made, wondering if he had overlooked the signs of discontent within his own team. Doubts crept into his mind, clouding his judgment and fueling the intruder's narrative. To combat this turmoil, he and Jenna devised a plan to foster open communication within the dealership. They organized regular team meetings where everyone could voice their concerns and ideas, creating a safe space for dialogue. Marcus hoped that by addressing any underlying issues, he could unite the team and strengthen their resolve against external threats. But as they implemented this plan, the intruder continued to escalate their tactics. Rumors swirled like wildfire, and tensions within the dealership began to rise. The atmosphere grew thick with distrust as employees whispered about each other, unsure of who to believe. Marcus felt the walls closing in around him. Every effort to rebuild trust seemed thwarted by the intruder's relentless attacks. He knew he had to act swiftly or risk losing everything he had worked for. One evening, after a particularly heated meeting, Marcus sat alone in his office, poring over the messages and comments that had plagued them. The weight of the world rested on his shoulders, and for the first time, he felt the temptation to give in, to walk away from it all. But just as despair threatened to consume him, Jenna burst into the room, eyes blazing with determination. "We can't let them win, Marcus. We need to fight back harder than ever," she declared. Her words reignited the spark of determination within him. "You're right. We have to show the community that we won't back down." "We need to rally support like never before," he replied, the fire in his belly igniting once more. Together, they crafted a new strategy, focusing on engagement and transparency. They reached out to local media outlets, inviting them to witness the changes happening at the dealership. They wanted to share their story authentically, hoping to counteract the intruder's narrative by putting their values front and center. As they worked tirelessly to regain control of the narrative, Marcus felt a shift in the energy surrounding them. Slowly, community members began to rally behind them, sharing positive experiences and countering the negative stories that had circulated. It was a glimmer of hope in an otherwise bleak landscape. But the intruder wasn't finished. They retaliated with a new wave of attacks, launching a smear campaign that targeted not only Marcus, but also his loyal supporters. Personal lives were dragged into the fray, and it became clear that the stakes had escalated to a level Marcus had never anticipated. In the chaos, Marcus found himself at a crossroads. He could either retreat, allow fear to dictate his actions, or rise up and fight back with everything he had. The choice felt monumental, and as he stood on the precipice of this decision, he realized the battle wasn't just for the dealership, it was for his integrity, his beliefs, and the community he had come to love. As the weeks turned into a brutal struggle, tensions continued to mount. Marcus felt the pressure bearing down on him as the intruder's presence loomed larger, infiltrating every aspect of his life. It wasn't just the dealership anymore, it was his reputation, his relationships, and the very foundation of the life he had built. But even as the storm raged around him, a sense of resilience began to take root. He started to see the strength in vulnerability, the power of community, and the importance of standing firm against adversity. The more he leaned into these values, the more he felt the tide begin to shift. As they approached a crucial community event meant to showcase the dealership's commitment to local initiatives, Marcus knew this was a turning point. It was an opportunity to show the community their dedication and resilience, to stand together against the tide of negativity that threatened to drown them. The night of the event arrived, and as Marcus stood in front of a crowd filled with familiar faces, he felt a surge of energy coursing through him. He spoke passionately about the importance of community, the commitment to excellence, and the unwavering belief in the power of collaboration. The crowd responded with applause, and he felt a renewed sense of hope building within him. But just as the atmosphere shifted, a familiar figure emerged from the shadows. The intruder had come to make their presence known. Their arrival sent a ripple of tension through the crowd, and Marcus felt a chill run down his spine. "Do you really think you can win this battle?" The intruder sneered, their voice cutting through the cheers like a knife. For a moment, time stood still as Marcus locked eyes with the intruder. It was a defining moment, a confrontation that felt like the culmination of everything they had faced together. "I'm not here to fight you. I'm here to stand with my community, and no amount of negativity can change that," he declared, his voice unwavering. The intruder's expression darkened, and the air grew thick with anticipation. Marcus felt a surge of adrenaline as he prepared for the storm that was about to unleash. As the confrontation escalated, the crowd watched in rapt attention, tensions crackling in the air. Marcus could sense that this moment would define not just the future of the dealership, but also the resilience of the community itself. The battle was far from over, and the outcome hung in the balance. But as he stood there, unwavering in the face of adversity, Marcus felt a spark of determination ignite within him. They had come too far to turn back now, and he knew that together, they would fight for their future. The shadows may loom large, but the light of community and resilience would shine brighter still. As Marcus stood facing the intruder, the tension in the air thickened. The crowd, a blend of supporters and skeptics, held their breath, awaiting the next move. The intruder's mocking smile vanished, replaced by a look of steely determination. "You think you can rally this community against me? You have no idea what you're up against," they hissed, their voice low yet piercing. Marcus felt the weight of their words. What could be lurking beneath the surface? He had fought tooth and nail to defend the dealership and its values, but he sensed there was more to the intruder than mere resentment. The stakes had escalated. This was no longer just about defending a business. It was about the very soul of the community they both claimed to serve. The crowd shifted, whispers swirling like autumn leaves caught in the wind. Jenna stepped forward, her presence a stabilizing force beside Marcus. "We are not afraid of your threats. We're here for our community, and that means more than your petty games," she declared, her voice ringing with conviction. But the intruder only laughed, a chilling sound that echoed through the gathering. "You're naive, Jenna. You think this is just about your dealership? This is about exposing the truth that you and Marcus have hidden for too long. People deserve to know what's really happening behind closed doors. Marcus felt a cold knot form in his stomach. What truth? What had the intruder unearthed? The uncertainty gnawed at him, a reminder of the darkness he had been trying to push away. He exchanged a worried glance with Jenna, who looked equally perplexed but resolute. Enough of your theatrics. If you have something to say it, Marcus shouted, his heart pounding in his chest. The crowd murmured in agreement, curiosity peaking as they awaited the intruder's revelation. Fine. Let's cut to the chase, the intruder replied, stepping closer, their eyes blazing. I've gathered evidence information that shows Marcus and Jenna have been engaging in shady business practices, underhanded deals, and manipulation of community resources for personal gain. It's all documented, and I plan to make it public. Your little community project? Just a fade to mask the truth. The air crackled with tension as gasps echoed from the crowd. Marcus's heart raced. The intruder was skilled, a master of manipulation. Their words had the power to shift perceptions, to fracture the fragile trust he had built. Jenna's hand gripped his arm, and he felt the warmth of her determination, anchoring him against the storm. Lies, Marcus shouted, trying to drown out the doubts creeping into his mind. You have no proof. This is nothing but a desperate attempt to tear us apart. Is it? Why don't you let the community decide? The intruder retorted, pulling out a flash drive from their pocket. I'll be releasing this online tonight. Let the people see for themselves. With that, they turned on their heel and strode away, disappearing to the crowd of shocked faces. The murmurs escalated into a cacophony of disbelief and confusion. Marcus felt the ground shift beneath him as his supporters exchanged worried glances, the air thick with uncertainty. Jenna pulled him aside, her expression serious. We need to take immediate action. If they release that information, it could ruin everything we've worked for. Marcus nodded, his mind racing. We need to find out what they have, and fast. We can't let them control the narrative. As they hurried back to the dealership, a sense of urgency propelled them forward. They needed to get to the bottom of this before the intruder could unleash chaos on their community. Inside the dealership, the atmosphere felt charged with tension. Marcus paced back and forth, contemplating every possible angle. What if they've really found something? What if there are hidden truths we've ignored? He murmured, his voice barely above a whisper. Jenna watched him closely. Whatever they think they know, we can counter it. We just need to be transparent and honest with our community. But we also need to dig deep. If there's a chance that we've made mistakes, we need to address them head-on. Marcus felt a surge of resolve. You're right. We need to gather our team and hold an emergency meeting. We can't let fear dictate our actions. If we face this together, we can weather any storm. They quickly gathered the staff, who were still reeling from the intruder's accusations. The room buzzed with anxiety and fear as Marcus and Jenna took their places at the front. I know this is a lot to process, but we're facing a challenge that could threaten everything we've built. We need to be honest with each other and work as a team, Marcus said, scanning the room. Have any of you noticed anything unusual? Any slip-ups or decisions that may have been questionable? Jenna added, her voice steady and calm. Several hands went up hesitantly, and soon, a discussion unfolded, revealing small discrepancies that had previously gone unnoticed. Each revelation felt like a brick added to the wall of doubt looming over Marcus. The situation was spiraling out of control, and the specter of the intruder loomed larger than ever. As the meeting progressed, a few employees shared concerns about resource allocation, transparency in decision-making, and communication issues. Marcus felt the weight of their worries pressing down on him, threatening to shatter the image he had worked so hard to maintain. The thought of facing the community felt more daunting than ever. After the meeting, Marcus and Jenna retreated to the back office, the weight of the conversation hanging heavy between them. We need to be proactive, Jenna said. If we don't address this now, it will only get worse. Marcus nodded, frustration bubbling beneath the surface. We have to counteract this narrative. We can't just wait for them to act, we need to take the initiative. But just as they began brainstorming ideas, a commotion erupted outside. Curious, they rushed to the dealership's front to find a crowd gathering, phones raised, capturing what was unfolding. A familiar face emerged from the crowd. It was the intruder, flanked by a group of local journalists. Marcus, Jenna, care to comment on the allegations? They called out, their voice dripping with sarcasm. The sight sent a jolt of panic through Marcus. He could feel the air shift as more people turned their attention toward him. Jenna stepped forward, trying to maintain some semblance of control. "We're happy to answer questions, but we urge everyone to refrain from jumping to conclusions." "Is it true? Are you hiding something from us?" one journalist shouted, pushing through the crowd. Marcus's heart raced as he glanced at Jenna, who looked equally unsettled. This was the moment they had dreaded. "We've always been transparent with our community," he replied, forcing a steadiness into his voice. "We encourage open dialogue and welcome questions." The intruder's smirk grew wider as they stepped closer. "But what about the evidence I'll be releasing tonight? Are you ready to face the truth?" At that moment, Marcus felt like a puppet on strings, caught in a game he never wanted to play. He needed to regain control, to reclaim the narrative. "We invite you to join us in an open forum. Let's discuss any concerns you have directly," he suggested, knowing it could backfire. The crowd murmured, a mix of curiosity and skepticism. Jenna nodded, backing him up. "Yes, let's clear the air. We want to address your concerns openly and honestly. Will you still feel that way when the truth is revealed?" The intruder shot back, eyes glinting with malice. As the crowd began to disperse, Marcus and Jenna returned to their office, the weight of the confrontation lingering. "We have to prepare for whatever is coming," Marcus said, determination creeping back into his voice. "We need a plan for the forum and a way to address the community." But even as they made plans, a sense of dread gnawed at him. They had unearthed issues within the dealership that felt insurmountable. What if the intruder was right? What if they had been blind to the cracks forming beneath the surface? As night fell, they worked tirelessly, drafting responses and strategies. But the clock was ticking. Time was running out before the intruder would unleash whatever chaos they had prepared. With each passing hour, the tension escalated. Marcus found himself refreshing his phone, anxiously waiting for news. Jenna was a steady presence beside him, providing insight and support. They navigated through the mounting chaos, determined to rise above the storm. But just as Marcus felt they were gaining a foothold, his phone buzzed with an alert. His heart sank as he read the notification. Local news reports indicate that the intruder has released a video online detailing serious allegations against the dealership. The community is reacting with shock and outrage. Panic surged through him. "Jenna, we need to see this," he said, scrambling to pull up the video on his laptop. As the footage began to play, the intruder appeared on screen, addressing the community with a confident smirk. "Hello, everyone. I have some shocking revelations that will change how you view your beloved dealership forever." Marcus felt his heart race as the intruder unveiled supposed evidence, clips of conversations, documents that hinted at impropriety, and testimonials from disgruntled former employees. Each revelation felt like a dagger, striking at the very core of everything he believed in. The intruder's voice dripped with mockery. "What you're about to see may shake your trust in the leadership of this dealership. Are they really here for the community? Or is this just a fade to mask their greed? Let's take a look." As the video continued, Marcus's world began to crumble around him. He could hear whispers of betrayal, accusations of favoritism, and claims of backroom deals that made him feel sick to his stomach. The more he watched, the more he realized how deep the intruder's reach was, how they had pulled at the threads of trust within the community. When the video finally ended, silence filled the office. Marcus felt a cold sweat on his brow, the weight of impending doom pressing down on him. "What are we going to do?" Jenna asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "We need to confront this head-on," Marcus replied, but the confidence in his voice faltered. "We can't let this define us. We need to show the community who we really are." They quickly gathered their team again, and with each passing moment, the gravity of the situation weighed heavier. The dealership's reputation was at stake, and time was running out. They needed a plan, a way to address the concerns raised in the video, while still presenting their side of the story. As they brainstormed, an unexpected voice rose among them. It was Mark, one of their newer employees. "What if we turn this into an opportunity? We can host a town hall meeting, invite the community, and lay everything out on the table. Let them ask questions, and we can provide answers." The suggestion hung in the air, a glimmer of hope amid the chaos. Marcus exchanged a glance with Jenna, who nodded. "That could work, but we need to be fully transparent. No hiding, no secrets, just honesty." The team rallied together, crafting a message to the community, inviting them to an open forum. It was a bold move, but they were running out of options. If they didn't take control of the narrative now, it could spiral beyond their reach. As the day of the town hall approached, anxiety and uncertainty filled the air. Marcus stood before the mirror, adjusting his tie, trying to project confidence. But deep down, he felt like an imposter. Was he really the leader the community needed? The night of the town hall arrived, and the dealership was packed. The crowd buzzed with anticipation, a mix of curiosity and skepticism. Marcus and Jenna took the stage, their hearts racing as they faced the very people they had fought for. "Thank you all for being here tonight," Marcus began, his voice steady despite the turmoil within. "We know there have been troubling accusations against us, and we want to address each and every one of them head-on." He glanced at Jenna, who gave him an encouraging nod. "We believe in transparency, and we're here to listen. We'll answer any questions you have, and we want to make sure you feel heard." As they opened the floor for questions, the atmosphere shifted. Some members of the community expressed their concerns directly, their voices filled with passion. "Why should we trust you after everything that's been said?" One woman challenged. Marcus took a deep breath. "Because we're committed to this community. We've made mistakes, yes, but we're here to learn and grow. We want to earn your trust back." The questions continued, growing more intense as the evening unfolded. Some people were furious, demanding explanations, while others expressed doubt, their faith shaken. Each response felt like a step into the abyss, a plunge into uncertainty. As the night wore on, the tension in the room reached a breaking point. Just when Marcus thought they might be turning a corner, a man in the back stood up, his voice booming. "I want to know if you've been lying to us about the community project. Are you really committed to making a difference, or is this just a fake? Marcus's heart raced. The project was designed to uplift our community. It's a partnership aimed at improving our local economy. But I understand your concerns. We need to work together to ensure transparency." But the man wasn't finished. "Then why do you hide behind closed doors? What are you really doing with our resources?" Jenna stepped forward, her voice calm yet firm. "We want to be open about our operations. We're committed to accountability, and we invite anyone with concerns to come forward. We are here to work with you, not against you." But the man shook his head. "It's too late for that. You've lost our trust, and I fear you're just going to continue hiding." The sentiment rippled through the audience, a collective doubt taking hold. Marcus felt the weight of their skepticism pressing down on him. How could he reassure them? Just when he thought it couldn't get worse, his phone buzzed with an alert. He glanced down to see a notification from a news outlet. Newly released footage reveals the dealership's questionable past. Are they hiding more than just business secrets? Panic surged through him, his heart pounding as he fought to maintain composure. "Please, let's focus on what we can do moving forward," he urged, desperately trying to steer the conversation back on track. But the crowd was restless, murmurs spreading like wildfire. The sense of betrayal loomed large, and Marcus knew they were losing control. "Enough!" Jenna suddenly interjected, her voice rising above the chaos. "We can't change the past, but we can choose our future. We're here because we care. We want to make things right, but we need your help to do it." The crowd quieted, the weight of her words sinking in. Marcus could see the flicker of hope in some of their eyes, but doubt still lingered in the corners of the room. As the night wore on, they faced question after question, each one cutting deeper than the last. Marcus felt the suffocating weight of the intruder's accusations bearing down on him, each revelation serving as a reminder of how precarious their situation had become. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, the meeting drew to a close. The crowd dispersed, and Marcus and Jenna were left standing together, the silence of the empty room echoing the doubts still swirling in their minds. "What now?" Jenna asked, her voice a mixture of concern and determination. Marcus sighed, running a hand through his hair. "We need to regroup. We can't let this consume us. We have to find out who's behind these allegations and what evidence they really have." Just then, the dealership's front door swung open, and a familiar face stepped inside. It was one of Marcus's old friends, Alex, who had worked in media for years. "I heard about what's happening," he said, concern etched across his face. "You're in a tight spot, but I might have a lead on the intruder's background." Marcus's heart raced. "What do you mean? Who are they?" Alex leaned in closer, lowering his voice. "I've been tracking some of the stories they've been involved in. There's a pattern. This person has a history of stirring up trouble for businesses in the area, using sensationalism to gain traction." A spark of hope ignited within Marcus. "If we can find out more about them, maybe we can counter their narrative." Alex nodded. "Exactly. Let's dig deeper and see what we can uncover." As they began to strategize, a renewed sense of purpose surged through Marcus. They wouldn't let the intruder control their fate. They would uncover the truth, and in doing so, they would reclaim their community. But even as they plotted their course of action, a nagging doubt lingered in Marcus's mind. How deep did the intruder's knowledge go? What other surprises awaited them? The stakes had never been higher, and the tension was palpable. They knew they were racing against time, and with each passing moment, the threat loomed larger. The intruder had their claws in the community, and Marcus was determined to cut them loose. He would not rest until the truth was exposed, no matter the cost. As the clock ticked forward, Marcus felt the weight of responsibility settle firmly on his shoulders. The challenge ahead was daunting, but he refused to back down. Together with Jenna, Alex and their team, they would fight to restore trust and integrity, even if it meant facing the darkest corners of their past. The night was far from over, and the battle for the dealership and the community was just beginning. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the dealership, Marcus felt an urgency unlike any he'd experienced before. With every passing moment, the threat of the intruder loomed larger, and the weight of the community's skepticism pressed heavily on his shoulders. He glanced at Jenna and Alex, their faces set in determination, but lined with worry. They needed to act swiftly and decisively. The trust they had worked so hard to build was hanging by a thread, and it wouldn't take much for it to snap entirely. "We have to go through every detail of that video," Marcus said, leaning over the conference table piled high with paperwork and reports. "Every accusation, every claim. There's got to be something we can use against this intruder." Jenna nodded, her fingers dancing across a laptop as she pulled up the video again. "It's a long shot, but if we can find inconsistencies or falsehoods, we can start to unravel their narrative." As they replayed the footage, each frame felt like a punch to the gut. The intruder had skillfully crafted a narrative that tapped into the community's fears and frustrations, weaving personal testimonies with carefully selected clips of questionable decisions made by the dealership. Marcus clenched his jaw as the video highlighted every moment of weakness, every instance where they had stumbled. "Look at this," Alex said, pausing the video. "They're citing an old report about a safety incident that was resolved years ago. If we can prove that it's been addressed and that the report is misleading, we can chip away at their credibility." Jenna's eyes lit up. "Yes. If we can get our hands on the documentation proving that the safety measures were improved, we can show that we've learned from past mistakes." Marcus felt a flicker of hope as they worked late into the night, poring over old records and reaching out to contacts who might help verify their claims. The atmosphere in the room shifted from despair to determination, their energy fueled by the prospect of reclaiming their narrative. But deep down, Marcus couldn't shake the feeling that time was slipping away, and they were racing against a clock he couldn't see. By the early hours of the morning, exhaustion had begun to set in, but the stakes were too high for them to stop. Jenna had found the documentation proving their safety improvements, and they meticulously prepared a response to the intruder's claims. "We need to be prepared for backlash," she cautioned. "We can't assume this will go smoothly." Marcus agreed, but he also knew that they had to take this chance. The community deserves to know the truth, and if we don't stand up for ourselves now, we may never get the opportunity again. As dawn broke, they finalized their plans for a press conference, drafting a statement that laid out their side of the story with clarity and conviction. They scheduled the event for the following day, hoping that the momentum they had built would carry them through. But just as they felt a sense of relief wash over them, Marcus's phone buzzed with an alert that sent chills down his spine. Breaking new footage surfaces, raising further doubts about the dealership's integrity. His heart raced as he clicked the link, and the video began to play. This time, it showed a series of previous employees, speaking out about their experiences. Each one painted a picture of a toxic workplace, of favoritism and mismanagement. The statements echoed with familiar names, and Marcus's stomach twisted with each revelation. They were moments he had either witnessed or heard rumors about, but seeing them laid bare was devastating. "We need to respond to this immediately," Marcus said, his voice shaking with urgency. "This could crush us before we even have a chance to present our side." Jenna furrowed her brow. "But how? We can't just dismiss their claims. We need to address the issues they're raising, but we also have to protect ourselves." Marcus paced the room, feeling the weight of impending doom creeping in again. "We can't allow this to spiral. We need to reach out to these former employees and understand their stories. If there's truth to their claims, We need to acknowledge it and show how we're working to improve." They spent the next few hours contacting former employees, hoping to find a way to bridge the gap and perhaps even regain some semblance of trust. But as they reached out, it became evident that many of those employees had moved on, some even harboring deep resentments. Each conversation was tinged with bitterness, and Marcus felt the dread seep deeper into his bones. As they prepared for the press conference, the tension was palpable. The dealership's main floor had been transformed, with cameras and reporters ready to capture every word. Marcus could see the skepticism in their eyes, the questions lurking just beneath the surface. They were there to catch the slightest misstep, waiting for the moment when they could pounce. "Are you ready?" Jenna asked, her voice steady but laced with concern. Marcus nodded, though his heart raced in his chest. "We have to be. We need to show them that we're committed to change." When it was finally time to take the stage, Marcus felt the weight of the community behind him, their hopes and doubts pressing in. He looked out at the crowd, filled with familiar faces mixed with new ones, and steeled himself for the challenge ahead. "Thank you all for being here today," he began, trying to project confidence, even as his voice trembled slightly. "We understand that there are serious concerns regarding our dealership and our commitment to this community." He glanced at Jenna, who was ready with the prepared slides. They had crafted a presentation that outlined their improvements and the steps they were taking to ensure transparency. But as he spoke, he could feel the undercurrent of skepticism in the room, a tension that refused to dissipate. As they progressed through the presentation, questions began to fly from the audience. "What about the claims made by your former employees? Are you really addressing the toxicity?" One voice shouted, cutting through the air like a knife. Marcus felt his pulse quicken. "Yes, we are committed to addressing any issues that have arisen in the past. We are actively working to create a better environment for all our employees." Another hand shot up. "And what about the safety incident? How can we trust that you've really made changes?" Jenna stepped in, her tone calm and reassuring. "We have documented evidence of the improvements we've made and are more than willing to share it with the community. We want to be transparent about our progress." But the crowd remained restless, and Marcus could see doubt clouding their expressions. Every response felt like a battle against a tide of skepticism that threatened to pull them under. The questions kept coming, each one more pointed than the last. "How do we know this isn't just a PR stunt?" Another audience member challenged. "You've had issues before. Why should we believe you now?" "Because we're here, standing before you, ready to own up to our past and work for a better future," Marcus replied, though doubt flickered in his own mind. He had seen the video, heard the accusations. Were they really doing enough? As the press conference dragged on, the atmosphere shifted from skepticism to outright hostility. A wave of discontent washed over the room, and Marcus felt the walls closing in. "You're hiding something," someone shouted from the back, the accusation sharp and unforgiving. "Please, let us answer your questions," Jenna urged, desperation creeping into her voice. But the crowd was restless, and the skepticism morphed into anger, each question becoming more personal, more accusatory. Amid the chaos, Marcus caught sight of a familiar figure in the back of the room, his old mentor, Mr. Thompson, who had once guided him through the early days of his career. Their eyes met, and Marcus felt a pang of guilt mixed with fear. If anyone knew the truth about his leadership, it was Thompson. "Marcus?" Thompson's voice rang out. "How can you justify your decisions in the face of these accusations? You've been given a chance to lead, but what have you really done with it?" The question hung in the air like a heavy fog, and Marcus felt the weight of the community's gaze upon him. "We've done our best to create a positive impact," he said, the words tasting bitter on his tongue. "But I know we have room for improvement." "Room for improvement isn't enough when lives are at stake." Thompson shot back. "You've let the community down, and now it's time for you to face the music." The tension in the room escalated, and Marcus could feel the heat of their anger radiating towards him. The crowd had turned against him, and he struggled to maintain his composure under the onslaught of criticism. "Enough," Jenna finally interjected, her voice breaking through the chaos. "This isn't just about blame. This is about moving forward. We acknowledge our past mistakes, but we are here to create change, and we need your help to do it." But the damage was done. The community was not ready to forgive or forget. As the crowd began to disperse, the feeling of defeat settled heavily in the pit of Marcus's stomach. They had put everything on the line, yet it felt like they had lost more than they had gained. In the aftermath of the press conference, Marcus sat in his office, staring blankly at the wall. The once vibrant atmosphere of the dealership now felt cold and hollow. The employees moved about with their heads down, whispers of discontent filling the air. It was clear that morale had taken a nosedive, and Marcus knew he had to act fast. "I don't know how we can turn this around," Jenna admitted as she entered the room, her voice heavy with disappointment. "They didn't believe us, Marcus." "We need to rebuild that trust," he replied, feeling a sense of urgency settle over him. "Maybe we can hold community forums, invite people to voice their concerns directly, and truly listen to what they have to say." Jenna considered this. "It's a start, but we need to show them real change, not just promises. The community wants to see action." Marcus nodded, the weight of their predicament settling back into his chest. "We need to show them that we care, that we're willing to fight for this dealership and the community." As the days passed, they began organizing the forums, reaching out to community leaders, and inviting former employees to share their stories. But with each passing moment, the tension grew. The feeling of being watched, of scrutiny hovering above them, was suffocating. It was clear that the intruder's influence had taken root, and the repercussions were felt in every corner of the dealership. At one of the forums, tension crackled in the air as community members filed into the room. Marcus and Jenna stood at the front, ready to face the music once again. "Thank you all for being here," Marcus began, his voice steady but his heart racing. "We understand that trust must be earned, and we're here to listen to your concerns." The room was filled with skepticism, but they pressed on, determined to foster open dialogue. One by one, community members spoke, their voices filled with frustration and fear. Each story laid bare the impact of the dealership's past decisions, and Marcus felt the weight of responsibility heavy on his shoulders. "We felt unheard and unseen," one woman said, her voice shaking. "You talk about change, but how can we believe you?" Another man echoed her sentiments. "This dealership has let us down time and again. Why should we trust you now?" With each statement, Marcus felt the chasm of mistrust widen, but he also sensed a flicker of hope as he watched the community members engage in conversation. They were speaking up, sharing their experiences, and demanding accountability. Yet, as the forums progressed, rumors began to swirl, fueled by the shadowy presence of the intruder. Whispers of sabotage echoed through the dealership, leaving Marcus feeling vulnerable. Each night, he returned home with a sense of dread, unable to shake the feeling that something sinister was lurking just out of sight. One evening, as he was leaving the dealership, he noticed a figure standing in the shadows, hidden beneath a street lamp. It was too dark to make out any details, but a chill crept up his spine. Marcus quickened his pace, glancing over his shoulder as he drove away. The sensation of being watched was more palpable than ever, and he couldn't shake the thought that the intruder was closer than he had realized. Days turned into weeks, and the tension within the dealership reached a breaking point. Employees were on edge, and the community forums were met with mixed reactions. While some voiced their support, many remained staunchly opposed, unwilling to forgive past grievances. Marcus, Jenna, and Alex huddled together late one night, exhausted from the effort to mend the rift. "We need a bold move," Marcus said, leaning back in his chair, frustration bubbling beneath the surface. "Something that proves we're serious about change." "What did you have in mind?" Alex asked, rubbing his temples. "A community event. Something big. We invite everyone, local leaders, former employees, and residents. We can showcase our commitment to this community and share our plans for the future." Jenna raised an eyebrow. "But what if it backfires? If we don't deliver on our promises, it could be disastrous." "It's a risk we have to take," Marcus replied, determination flooding his veins. "We need to show them we're invested, not just in words, but in actions." As they devised their plans, Marcus felt a surge of energy, a flicker of hope igniting within him. They worked tirelessly, organizing every detail of the event, determined to make it a success. But as the day approached, the pressure mounted, and whispers of dissent continued to swirl. On the day of the event, the dealership transformed into a hub of activity, with booths set up to highlight their safety improvements and community initiatives. But as people began to arrive, Marcus's heart raced with anxiety. The atmosphere was charged, a mix of excitement and trepidation. Despite their efforts, the shadows of doubt hung over the event like a storm cloud. People filed in, some with expressions of skepticism, while others held grudging hope. Marcus stood at the front, scanning the crowd for any signs of dissent, waiting for the moment when the truth would be revealed. As the program commenced, Marcus took the stage, pouring his heart into his words. "Thank you all for being here. We understand that trust takes time, and we are committed to earning that trust every single day." But as he spoke, he noticed a commotion at the back of the crowd. A group of people was whispering fiercely, pointing toward the front. A sense of dread washed over him as he caught sight of a familiar face, one of the former employees who had spoken out during the forums. The crowd turned as the employee began shouting accusations, each word laced with anger and frustration. "You're still lying to us. You think you can just sweep everything under the rug?" Marcus's heart raced as the tension in the room escalated. "Please, let us explain," he called out, but his words fell on deaf ears as chaos erupted. People began shouting over one another, demanding answers, questioning his integrity. Marcus felt the walls closing in again, the pressure mounting as the weight of the accusations threatened to crush him. Jenna stepped forward, her voice firm. "We're here to listen. We're here to address your concerns. Please, give us a chance to show you we can do better." But it was too late. The anger in the room had reached a boiling point, and it felt like the very foundation of the dealership was crumbling beneath them. Amid the uproar, Marcus spotted the shadowy figure from earlier, lurking at the edge of the crowd. Panic surged through him, the connection between the intruder and the chaos becoming all too real. Someone was orchestrating this, feeding off the unrest, and he had to uncover who it was before it was too late. With a surge of determination, he made his way through the crowd, dodging angry voices and accusations. He had to confront the figure, had to get to the bottom of the conspiracy that threatened everything he had worked for. As he approached the back, his heart pounded in his chest, adrenaline coursing through his veins. The closer he got, the clearer the figure became, a man with a familiar face that sent shockwaves through Marcus's core. It was his former mentor, Mr. Thompson. "Why Thompson?" Marcus asked, struggling to contain his disbelief. "Why would you do this?" Thompson's expression was unreadable, a mask of calm that only fueled Marcus's anger. "You've lost your way, Marcus. This community deserves better than what you've given them. I'm trying to make things right." Marcus shot back, desperation creeping into his voice. "We're here. We're trying to change." "Trying isn't enough when you've already betrayed their trust," Thompson replied coolly. "You've become part of the problem, and now you'll have to face the consequences." As the tension between them simmered, Marcus felt the crowd's focus shift, their attention caught in the whirlwind of accusations. The reality of the moment hit him hard. Their fragile hope was on the brink of collapse, and he was standing on the edge of a precipice. But in that moment of chaos, something shifted. The community members began to voice their frustrations, not just at Marcus, but at the system that had let them down for so long. It was an eruption of pent-up anger, and for the first time, it felt like their pain was being heard. Marcus took a deep breath, his heart racing as he realized the tide was turning. "You're right. We've made mistakes, and we're here to own them," he called out, raising his voice above the cacophony. "But we can't do it alone. We need your help to rebuild, to make this community stronger." As he spoke, he could see the flickers of understanding in their eyes, the realization that they were all in this together. The anger that had threatened to consume them began to shift toward a collective desire for change, a longing for a brighter future. "Let's turn this anger into action," he continued, feeling the energy of the room shift once more. "We can't undo the past, but we can build a better tomorrow together. We need your input, your experiences, and your passion to help us create real change." The room began to quiet, and for the first time, Marcus felt a glimmer of hope break through the clouds of despair. Perhaps they could turn this chaos into a rallying cry, an opportunity to unite the community instead of tearing them apart. But as he stood there, the shadow of the intruder loomed larger than ever, and the stakes had never felt higher. The battle was far from over, and the question of whether they would truly prevail remained uncertain. Marcus stood at the center of the chaos, his heart pounding as the room shifted from hostility to an unexpected openness. He could see the anger in the eyes of the community members soften slightly as they began to process his words. A wave of anxiety washed over him, but he pressed on, feeling a spark of determination igniting within him. "Let's talk about what went wrong, what we can do to fix it together. We want to hear your ideas." The murmurs of dissent transformed into murmurs of curiosity. Marcus noticed a few familiar faces nodding, people he had seen at the forums, individuals who had shared their frustrations. It was as if the dam of resentment was breaking, revealing a flood of raw emotions beneath. He felt the tension in the air begin to shift. The shadows of doubt that had loomed over the event seemed to recede just a little. As he continued speaking, he invited community members to share their thoughts openly, allowing for a dialogue that had been missing for too long. People began to raise their hands, some tentative, others more assertive. What are your plans for safety? One voice called out, how will you prevent this from happening again? Another added, each question was a stepping stone toward reconciliation, and Marcus seized every opportunity to engage with them directly. Your concerns are valid, Marcus replied, making eye contact with the speakers, showing that he was genuinely invested in their input. We have new safety protocols we're implementing, but we need your insight. How can we tailor them to better suit the community's needs? Jenna and Alex joined him, urging the crowd to share ideas, facilitating discussions that slowly transformed the room from hostile to collaborative. As people began to voice their thoughts, Marcus felt the shift grow stronger. They were building a bridge, one voice at a time, working toward a common goal, healing the community's wounds and restoring trust. Amidst the charged atmosphere, Marcus spotted Thompson lingering at the edge of the crowd, a calculating look in his eyes. Doubt crept into Marcus's mind. Was this truly a turning point, or was Thompson orchestrating the chaos from behind the scenes? The thought gnawed at him, fueling his determination to remain vigilant. Hours passed as they gathered feedback, ideas, and insights, creating a foundation for their future together. The energy in the room was electric, a combination of passion and hope. By the end of the event, people were exchanging contact information, discussing ways they could work together to create positive change. It was a monumental step forward, and Marcus felt a rush of exhilaration, believing they had turned a corner. Yet, as the event wound down, a sense of foreboding began to creep back in.